Welcome to Podman Pipecast.
The premier pipe band podcast. I messed it up.
Nice. So when you had the easiest part, come on.
I hit a speed bump.
You sounded like a shock jockey. Podman Pipecast K99E with Floyd and the Jerk.
Beautiful. Hello everyone and welcome. We're back, and we have two guests today. This is Mr. Robert Shepard and Mr. Dylan Anderson. Yay!
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for being on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
This is gonna be a fun time. So Robert and Dylan both came to our band, the Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band, from the world of high school, specifically high school marching band, and they're going to talk about that and what led them to ever want to be in a pipe band, because they just showed up one night and were like, hey, we want to play drums in your band, and we're like, cool. So yeah, let's get to it.
Yeah, I've actually mentioned this on our podcast a couple of times, that one of my friends was just like, come join this pipe band with me, and that's Robert. That was Robert that did that.
Yay, Robert!
That's me.
Yeah, so how'd you guys just in general get into drumming?
I started drumming in 5th grade in elementary school when we got to do band. You could do orchestra in 4th grade, but band in 5th. And I wanted to play the flute, but my mom said I couldn't. So I picked the trumpet, but everyone else picked the trumpet. So I picked percussion, and it just stuck, and I never stopped.
Yay, Mom!
Right?
I really liked playing the game Rock Band, the drum part of it. So I played a lot of that, and then I asked for a little drum set for my birthday, like in 7th or 8th grade. I think it was 8th grade. And then played that for a little bit, honestly, for like 2 months, and then I stopped. And then it was actually Robert he was my friend. He's still my friend, but he convinced me to join percussion class in high school. So that's where I officially started.
I remember that black Fender drum set in your living room.
Yeah, that was gnarly. It's not good, but you could hit it.
I also had a shitty black drum set that I played once and then never touched ever again.
That must be a trend. I mean, whatever gets you into drumming, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
So how did you get into Scottish drumming? Specifically, going from a drum set that you played in your living room or whatever to finding Scottish drumming. How did that happen?
Well, with Scottish drumming, it honestly was Robert. He said my little high school brain wasn't developed enough to really know what he was asking of me. So I thought he was taking me to a concert for bagpipe drumming, and I thought that was really cool. So I said yes, but it was actually to look at the band and join it. So that's really how I got into it.
I forgot about that.
How did this happen?
It was a lucky Google search. I Googled alternatives to the Academy Drum and Bugle Corps, and Mesa Caledonian Pipe Band was the first result. And I said, what is this? I clicked it, and I was like, bagpipes? Okay. So I emailed Diane, and she said, come on down. And so I just grabbed a whole van full of people, and we went.
That's literally what happened. It was literally a van full of us.
Oh, yeah. There's 4 or 5 or 6 of us. I was just like, get in. We're going to go check this out.
Get in, losers. We're playing bagpipes.
Right.
That sounds like the most high school story ever.
It was great. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I was clueless, but it was fun.
Is it still fun? You said it was fun.
Oh yeah, no, definitely still fun. It has never been not fun.
I'm glad.
Except for when you got bed bugs.
Oh.
I don't know. What?
Dylan got bed bugs at a band contest, guys.
Yeah.
People who are listening.
Yeah. I did. I was a victim. It ain't fun, folks. Check your sheets.
Can I get that on a shirt with your face?
Don't put your suitcase on your bed when you go to a hotel. Put it on the little carrier. Check the carrier.
Pro tip.
In your experience, how is the Scottish snare drumming style different from the American marching band drumming style?
That's a big question. Very. American snare drum style, I mean, going back to Revolutionary War, Civil War stuff moving forward, it's all like rhythm marching kind of based. While Scottish drumming is more, it's got kind of like that jazz feel to it. It's really swung, and it's more about playing music. Like if you were in like a jazz quartet on the side of the road in New Orleans or something, it's more like that. While like marching band drumming, you're playing in a football field, usually like a stadium. Imagine a college stadium, and you're playing out to everyone there. So you're just hammering it on, and it's just robotic and it's mechanical. While Scottish drumming is like, it's so tight knit. You're just so close to each other, and you don't have to hit so hard, and you can really put the finesse and the emphasis into it because the judges aren't, 1,000 feet away. They're 2 feet away from you. They're breathing down your neck. And it's kind of like more of a family feel to it than like marching band in like a DCI setting. It feels like a job, while like hype band drumming feels like a family. You're with your your dad and your mom, and you're playing music on the porch kind of a thing.
Kaylee's my mom.
We're playing music on our porch every day.
Every day.
Yeah, I would agree. The notes themselves, like you play a lot of triplets, you play a lot of flams and a lot of like buzz rolls, as like you don't play a lot of buzz rolls in other types of like drumming. Like it's primarily rolls, and it's Scottish drumming is, and it's wild. It feels like the music's alive in a way. Like it's just you really feel it in your hands when you play it, rather than you're just playing something that you memorized. Like it flows really well, and raising your hands up to hit a really like powerful note, that's totally welcomed in Scottish drumming, and it's what you're expected to do, and it's a lot of fun to play, I would say.
Man, if that's your guys' thought process, you should have joined front ensemble, because that's what we were about.
I don't know what that is.
We're too dumb to read music.
I'm a dumb idiot.
Dumb drummy boys.
Okay. Can you explain, because I was never in marching band. I was only ever in orchestra because I'm a nerd. Can you explain to me what is front ensemble versus like the rest of the band?
Front ensemble is the only part that matters.
I'll just let her take this one.
Yeah, I mean, we were at the front of the marching band, so you've got everybody in the background marching. You've got the drum line typically at the very far back of the field, and then you have this little front section of all the mallet instruments, like the marimba and the vibraphone, and then some random percussion instruments like a shaker or a triangle. And that's me. That's me at the front and center. Hello.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And the drum lines are the people in the back drums. That's pretty much it. And they march with the band.
So what did you guys play in high school?
I played the tenor drums.
Hey,
but like the marching tenor drums.
I'll pipe band tenor drums.
Yeah, I played the quad.
I played bass drum for 2 years and then snare drum for 2 years.
When you were first of all, let's go back to your comment about how you found the band by Googling, Robert, like alternatives to like drum corps. What was there any? What was similar? Was there anything similar to that? What question am I asking? Hold on. Are there any ways that you've discovered the style is the same? Because I'm guessing like you went to your first pipe band practice and like you guys just said, you're like, this is different, this is weird. Was there anything that was the same that you could identify with?
Holding the sticks the same. I mean, we both played traditional kind of in marching band and in pipe band. And I mean, all drumming is just rudiments. It's just the same, how many first say there are? 40 drum rudiments that are like the building blocks of all drumming. Those were all the same. It was just the technique to execute it which was different. And that was what was hard to switch between the robotic, metronome following versus the kind of like swung, jazzy, put some feeling into it kind of drumming.
Yeah, and this is a specific example, and it might be touched on later on, but we saw that our fellow drummers weren't playing with their like pinkies touching the sticks, and that's a no-no in like marching drumming. Like you want to keep all your fingers on there, but it like kind of set the tone of how loose and flowy this drumming was going to be. So we all kind of play without our pinkies on the stick now, but it was definitely a different vibe looking at that. It was crazy.
So the styles were different, but like kind of some of the stuff was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're both jigsaw puzzles, but one's like a Rembrandt and one's like one fish, two fish.
Many pipe bands are focused on competing to improve your skills. Is marching band also focused on competitions?
Yes. We it's a lot like sports in the fact that you hit competition after competition at a certain point. Like there's a period in time that you are practicing, and then like you start hitting like state competitions. We're talking about marching band, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like thinking about it too much. Yeah. So yeah, in marching band, you do a little like you play football games, like that's where you get your practice, but then you start hitting like state and state championships or super state. And then it's pretty similar with actually no, it's not. Bagpipe drumming is totally different with the competitions. it's Robert can go into that if he wants.
I mean there is still contest in pipe band, but it's not as cutthroat as it felt as in marching band kind of stuff. It wasn't like play to survive. Like in marching band, it was always play to beat the next guy. While in pipe band, it's always play to beat yourself kind of a thing. It's way more relaxed, definitely. You're not going to get chewed out, if you flub it too bad. But and with marching band, we never did like shows. Like in pipe band, you go and you play it, funerals or you're doing parades or whatever. You really didn't do that in marching band. You do parades, but it wasn't never like people weren't excited to see you. You were just expected to be there.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't really see a marching band at like a funeral.
Yeah. I wish you did. That
would. So let's talk about the equipment. Are American marching band drums and drumsticks the same as the ones used for Scottish drumming, or if not, how are they different?
I actually have two right next to me as a reference. Here, let me turn this so you can't see the brand. There you go. So this brown stick here is a pretty typical American marching band drumstick. This one's a little longer than typical, but they all look basically the same. While this blue one up here is a pipe band drumstick. So they start off, they're basically the same width at the tip, but the taper of the stick on the pipe band stick starts about right here, and it tapers way down to a fine point. while on the American marching stick, it's the same thickness till about right here. And then it has a pretty gradual taper. Basically same tip size. This one's a little smaller. It's just the design of the brand. But they're designed that way mostly because for the American drumstick, you want all the weight because you need the power because you're playing out, right? So you need all that weight to just get those notes out and make it the volume. Like a pipe band drumstick, you want finesse and you want more. You do dynamics in marching band, but there's way more in pipe band drumming. So you need the finesse and kind of the reduced weight. And this kind of design makes it more, bouncy and more susceptible to dynamic changes. And the rolls, like Dylan was saying, we do a ton of rolls. And so it's just easier to handle than like having a big meaty club in your hand just going at it.
Yeah, the sticks are a big part of it, but the drums too. The first drums we played on were pearls, which we had a few pearl drums in marching band, so it was pretty familiar. And then we moved to andante, which is I don't see that in marching band. I don't think.
I think they only make pipe band drum.
Yeah, and the way that the heads feel, it's a lot less like a gunshot. It's more like you're popping something, like you're hitting the world's like most tightly filled up smallest balloon every time that you like you hit a note. Like it's a different. It's like a pingy sound rather than like a gunshot. So that's how that's different, and it feels pretty different too. It's the head is like as stretched out as the marching band head is, but it feels like it feels bouncier in a way, which it helps with the rolls. So
Cool.
I want to expand on that too. Just like bass drums in marching band, there's like 5 of them, where in pipe band there's only 1 and it's 1 note, but there's 5 and they're all different notes. Robert could probably tell you the notes for marching band ones.
Oh God, was that 5 years ago? But yeah, they're different sizes and they're each 2 inches larger than the next one. So you usually start with like a 20-inch number 1 bass up to like a 28 number 5 bass, and then they're each pitched down, so it's like boom, 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 boom as you're going down the line.
And then with tenor drums too, the tenor drums in pipe bands are also single drums, whereas Dylan could tell you more about tenor drums for marching band.
Yeah, tenor drums in marching band, it's kind of like tom-tom drums on a drum set. I don't know how many people are familiar with those, but they have a lot of bounce to them, and you hit them like you would a snare drum. Like you hit them to be super loud, and it accompanies the snare drum. Like you guys are playing pretty similar notes, so it's rather than being more like a bass drum, it's more like a snare drum. And you can get 5 or 6 drums. Some schools like may have 4. It's just the tiny little drum in the center that's closest to you. It's called a spock or a gack drum. That can vary. So that's where like that drum is, but it's like 4 main drums on the outside that you play.
That one person is playing.
Yes, that one person's playing. You're playing all of them.
Has to carry.
Yeah. It's they can get pretty heavy. Our high school had the like smaller version when we were marching. It's got to be like 30, high 30 to like 40 pounds. But they can get pretty heavy. The larger sets, which the only thing that's different about it is it has a bigger like lower drum, so every drum's just like bigger because of that. Those can get pretty heavy, so probably like 50, 60 pounds.
Jeez.
Yeah, I did not envy Dylan on the field, I'll tell you.
Me neither. but it's good. You get good calves.
So I know we're going to talk more next episode about like challenges when you were coming into the pipe band world, which tune in next week and you'll hear more from these guys about that, as well as tips for how to recruit people like them for your band. But anyway, how weird was that coming in? Like, did you know when you first saw the band, like, oh, I want to play that? Or were you like, because Dylan, like, you came from playing tenor, were you looking at the tenors like, hey, I want to do that maybe? Or like, I don't know, what was your thought process behind when you first saw a band?
So Robert and I were also doing basketball band during all of this. So like we the notes that we were playing, we were playing like a lot of notes, and we noticed, or at least I personally noticed, that the snare drums were playing that. So I just gravitated towards that. I didn't really see too much of a divide with that. I liked playing that many notes, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it. So snare drum was something I saw immediately and wanted to do that.
Play all the notes.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been a snare drum head kid. I mean, even since I was a freshman, I played bass first, but man, looking at the snare drum guys, I was just like, someday that's going to be me. And so that's what I wanted to do after high school too. So that's why when I found the pipe band, I was like, oh, they do marching snare drum stuff. And that's kind of why I signed on to do that. I mean, the tenors are cool. The bass drum is cool. If I could breathe, I would play the bagpipes. But I don't know. Just something in my soul just resonates with the snare drum.
So regardless, you were like, nah, that's what I'm playing.
Yeah. And to be honest, when I joined, that was the only thing I was good at. So still is the only thing I'm good at.
At least I got Adela out of this deal. So
I definitely thought tenor, because coming from marching band with like 5 bass drums, I thought the tenor drums were bass drums when I first joined. I was like, why are they sideways? But I'm educated now.
Well, it makes sense, right? Because like you guys were saying, in marching band, the basses all have different notes, and it's one person playing one note. So like, that's what tenor is, right?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Basically the same theory with more pizzazz, right?
Visual pizzazz.
Visual pizzazz.
So do you guys have any comments on how American marching band drumming is different from the same as Scottish pipe drumming?
Let's see. So I would say that you're both playing to accompany the band. So you're not just doing your own thing. You're like, the notes that you play are for like the ebbs and flows of the band, and a lot of the stuff matches up. And I mean, little difference is there's no like drum breaks. Like, I mean, I don't know if a lot of marching bands do that still, but like, yeah, like there's like drum breaks where in marching band where just like the drum line just plays with the front ensemble, and you don't see that ever in Scottish drumming. It's just the bagpipes are always playing, and then the drummers are always drumming, but they all like play with each other.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's always an accompaniment. I mean, we were 2 cocky drumline kids too, so we always, it was always, we're the most important. But coming from both, I mean, you're the rhythm section. You're the glue to keeping it together. You're not why the people are there to see the show.
Yes. Also, trumpet players and bagpipers, right? Same? Different? I feel like they're similar.
Definitely the same vibe to their personality, you could say, for stereotyping a little bit. Definitely got kind of that puffed chest, walking around attitude.
Since there's a couple trombones in there.
Anyone who actually plays in marching band is going to be like, they'll get you.
They'll understand.
Yeah, they'll understand. All right, last question.
What is your favorite thing about Scottish snare drumming?
Yay.
My favorite thing about Scottish snare drumming would be just the feeling you get when you just nail a part that you're not comfortable with, because with Scottish drumming, you're either playing different or like different combinations of rudiments that and are familiar with, or you're playing something that's totally backwards and challenging to you. Like it's really cool. Like when you and all your fellow drummers like just nail a part that seems like you're never going to nail it. It's some parts are super challenging and that's just super rewarding.
Yeah, definitely pushing the technique boundaries that you'd have with like American style drumming or drum set drumming. Even it's because it's so jazzy and it's so swung. If you're not used to that, like if you didn't, grow up doing that kind of stuff, it's definitely like a brain trick in the technique area, because you can pull off the rudiments straight all day long, but the moment you have to swing it or you have to throw in a weird, pop accent here or there, playing a strass bay or something, it totally just throws you off, and your brain is like, whoa, what are you doing? So having that like extra push up level to make you just that much better, especially executing these complicated rudiments like he's saying and doing these weird patterns, it just makes you feel like on cloud nine. You feel like you're on top of the world when you do it.
That's fun. You guys give such good answers.
I hope.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I guess so. To all our listeners, we've been talking about doing this episode for a long time, just because like it's something that we see a lot. We see a lot of, not a lot, but we see some like marching band drummers who are like, oh, you guys do what I do, but like it's not the same, but it's similar, but it's not the same. So if you are a marching band drummer or coming from other drumming, what do you think? Is it the same? Is it different? What are your experiences? I don't know.
Tell us.
Tell us. Okay, we will be back next week, right here, right? Not right now, but we'll be back next week with more from these two guys. Specifically, more about, what are the challenges when you're a marching band drummer and you're trying to come into pipe band? How do pipe bands attract more marching band drummers? Do we want to attract more of these people? Let's find out next week.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed this show, then support us on Patreon for exclusive content, as well as the video of us recording this. We'll have special exercises we'll be writing, as well as tips and tricks with tenor drumming and other instruments to come. Subscribe to us on YouTube for some tenor tutorials and possibly other tutorials later on. And like us on Facebook at Podband Pipecast.